What an incredible week. Another incredible week. What an incredible day. If it happens, ladies and gentlemen, it will be the most significant international event we've had since the invasion of Iraq, actually. Or the capture of Osama bin Laden, one can argue. Maybe even bigger than that on a global scale, but primarily because it involves nuclear weapons. Kim Jong-un and the Prime Minister of South Korea, Moon Jae-in, is that his name?
Moon Jae-in, President Moon Jae-in.
Yeah, are meeting now. And this is very significant because it was only recently, within the last year, a little bit more than a year, that the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister of Japan, was ousted for corruption. Incredible. It's incredible to me because I look at this as a chess game. And you've got pieces on the board. Ishmael knows what I'm talking about. And sometimes the arrangement of your pieces will result in who wins, who loses. And I'm not talking losing pieces. I'm talking winning the game. So I look at these pieces and I see how they're lining up. Now, don't get me wrong, folks. I really have high hopes. I don't care who gets the credit. Donald John doesn't make a difference to me. I think it's a very good thing if, in fact, there is denuclearization worldwide, including my own country. Doubtful. But still a good thing, one can argue. Very good. I think that there's something wrong here on this screen. I'll get it. I'll get it. I think there's something to be said for dictators coming off their thrones and giving some consideration to the rest of the world. Now, the question is whether they'll give up their dictatorship. That's okay. Small steps. Now, we've been here before, ladies and gentlemen. There was a time when North Korea was part of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. You heard me right. There were treaties. This is long before Bush, of course, designated them as being part of the axis of evil. Yeah, I got it. Yes. Thank you. However, if this happens, it's a very good step. An excellent step. I wonder how we got here, given our current administration. I really do. The deal. What's the promise? Is it simply that Jong-un has now gotten fed up with his hunt and quest? Or something else? I don't know. I'm trying to see here. Yeah, it might be something else happening here with your Facebook thing. Yeah, why don't you come in and check it out? But it's a good idea. It's a good thing. How we arrived here seems dubious. I mean, it wasn't no more than, what, 4 months ago that Donald Trump was referring to Kim Jong-un as Rocket Man. You know, I have a button, I have a bigger button. Remember all that? Rockets were going off. Kim Jong-un, since Donald Trump's been in office, fired 89 rockets. Intercontinental ballistic missiles. He did. And I'm going to tell you, it seems a bit odd to me, extraordinarily odd, as to how that all just kind of came about. Now, look, folks, when you read Donald Trump's book, and I read it often, I go back and I find sections of it, his whole thing is that there is what people see, meaning the peasants, and then what we do behind closed doors. He's that kind of guy. It's theater. The way you do the deal, particularly when the deal involves, let's say, the public, it might even be stockholders. He's the kind of guy that would get in the room with the fewest people, numbers in the room, and he'll tell you that. He wants to talk to the decision maker, the ultimate decision maker, and then you and I can be one-on-one, not on the telephone, and then we'll automatically carve out a strategy as to how we can get the rest of the stockholders to go along. Ultimately, here's where we want to end up, and that is filthy rich, if possible. Damn them. That's what you read in his book, time and time again, The Art of the Deal. So I'm guardedly optimistic. I really am. And then there's another player in the book that obviously the media doesn't pick up on. You understand how we arrived here in Korea. We arrived in Korea, ladies and gentlemen, after World War II. And the Cold War began between the United States and Russia, and it was Russia who sided with the North Koreans. I mean, there was a civil war going on here, folks, to decide who in the peninsula would be the kind of government that would rule. And needless to say, the United States sided with the South, who was more looking for a republic, representative government, and of course, the Russian, Stalin, sided with North Koreans, who were looking for a more communistic, non-republic. And so began the Cold War. But it wasn't about China. China became a participant, however, because China, too, was also communistic. And there was some concern on the part of the United States that China and Russia could actually get together and, hey, guess what? Really continue, start World War III, really. Didn't happen, thank God. But the one player I don't see here is that, and I'm going to tell you, behind this is Vladimir Putin. I think that China certainly is a factor.
Why?
But this is, well, a factor primarily economically and by way of commerce. I mean...
well, China, no doubt, but why Putin?
I think Vladimir Putin's play in this is based upon, it was Vladimir Putin who provided Kim Jong-un with the technology for intercontinental ballistic missiles. I want you to know, ladies and gentlemen, you see, it was North Korea who was providing the Iranians and the Syrians with nuclear capability. Look, it's proven. I mean, it takes a minimum amount of research to find this out. This is all sitting right square under the pen of one Vladimir Putin. Question is why, I wonder. Why now? And that's what you should be asking. I mean, look, I'm hopeful, really. I hope that all is well. Why now? What actually transpired that would bring us to this point? To the point whereby Jong-un is saying, look, we'll give up our nukes and you don't have to, I won't object to any kind of military maneuvers with the South Koreans. By the way, it hasn't happened. You do understand that we've not had our usual South Korea-American foray in the South China Sea. In other words, Kim Jong-un not objecting to it could really be that Donald John and he have already said, look, I'm not going to do it. Now, I'm not going to say I'm not going to do it, but I'm not going to do it. But I want you to not object to it. All of this for the sake of the reality show. Produced and directed by Donald John. It doesn't matter to me that it's Donald John and it's a show. The fact that there is conversation is important to me. And I give him credit for that. Man with poor character, but still I give him credit. The question is what did we give up? And what is the final episode of this incredible reality show? So look, you won't get any criticism from me. But while I'm at it, I just want to add this, just another, should I say, addition into the hidden history of the African-American fighting warrior here, folks, since we are talking about the Korean conflict, which really could be over now. The armistice could be over with a treaty signed by the South Koreans and the North Koreans. By the way, the South Koreans did not sign on to the armistice, by the way. So basically, the South Koreans were still at war. And our guys on the DMZ were there to prohibit the war from continuing. Not just from the North Koreans, but also from the South Koreans, because they did not sign on to it. But just so you'll know, those of you out there, there were some 600,000 African Americans. You heard me right. More than 600,000 African Americans had served in the United States military during the Korean conflict. Of which many, ladies and gentlemen, including one Mayor Evers, was a seaman during that time. Also one Joe Robert was also in the Navy. Just people that I just know. L.G. McBride was also there. You know, it's interesting, in my neighborhood, ladies and gentlemen, I came to know, and many of us came to know, many of those men who served during World War I, World War II, and even the Korean conflict. Even the pastor of First Missionary Baptist Church, Reverend E.L. Fox, served in World War I. You should ask yourself, just how many veterans do you know now? And how do you revere their honor and service? You really could. and really should, folks. It gives me the kind of confidence I have in Rip. It does, folks. That's the story. All right, let's get to it here, folks. I think that's a great thing. Next story. Bill Cosby found guilty. I was shocked. We're going to throw it on the table. I'm open for whatever.
Why were you shocked, though?
Well, I was shocked primarily because of how this was pursued by the district attorney. I mean, this is his second time being tried criminally. The first time, he was found not guilty. No, I'm sorry. First time it was a hung jury. Was it a hung jury? Yeah. It was a hung jury.
Yeah.
Because if he was found not guilty, then it'd be double jeopardy and he couldn't be tried again. The DA vowed to try him again. Now, folks, look, I'm not going to defend what Bill Cosby is accused of. I will tell you that I'm influenced somewhat by the fact the man's lost a lot. He may have made some bucks, but the man lost his son, and he recently lost his daughter. And if there's any turnabout is fair play, in my view, that loss implies to me that whatever guilt he had was taken out by a greater power than the courts. But be that as it may, I think that everyone should have his or her day in court, including and especially the victim. And in this case, he was tried. Out of the 60 women, this was the one that met the statute of limitations. In other words, she was within the statute of limitations, although there's been a settlement, a civil settlement. She brought criminal action against one Bill Cosby. Now, I'm not going to get into details. We've talked about this already. What bothers me more than anything else about this, folks, is that it was an era going way back when it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. There's no doubt that Bill Cosby admitted using mollies or using drugs. There's no doubt that some of those who were taken advantage of, should I say, allegedly, were using drugs. There was not a forced situation here. There was not tying you up, none of that. You know, it wasn't even, in my view, given the testimony of what I just saw, I'm going to slip this in your drink. The victim knew that she was taking a drug from Bill Cosby. She knew that. They loosened her up to make her feel a little better. What she may not have known was that he had indulged. And she came back. And it happened again. And she did not cut off that relationship. And did not go to the police. Now, folks, I'm not going to redo this, but I can tell you this much. When the judge allowed 5 other women to come in and tell their stories, and these women, by the way, were not charging Bill Cosby, their statute of limitations had run out. And look, I'm not taking anything away. Look, if you feel that you were harmed, then you should have your day. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But what they endured should have had nothing to do with this case. Now, this is a criminal case. You know, in civil cases, it's preponderance of the evidence. In other words, the one with the most evidence typically wins. In criminal cases, it's not how much evidence you have, it's whether or not this person is guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt. You might have one witness on the side of the defense, and you might have 20 witnesses on the side of the prosecutor. But what the jury is supposed to evaluate is whether or not this person is guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's not preponderance of the evidence. Now, you can't ignore evidence. That's not what I'm saying. But it is whether or not the evidence as provided is enough to say that this person is guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's not about how much information. It's all solidifying. You got me? So, I'm disappointed. I'm going to tell you that. And I don't mind debating it. I don't. But let's not debate whether or not he did or did not. What I want to debate is how we came to this point. I have an idea. I think that Bill Cosby is a scapegoat primarily as a result of the Me Too movement, which I think is very real. I'm not saying it isn't. But I think that because he is a high-powered guy and because he is African-American, I do feel, ladies and gentlemen, that there are those who think he got off last time, like in the way of O.J. And so we've got to come up with something. We've got to get this guy. That combined with the fact that he and his wife, Bill Cosby and his wife, should not have looked a gift horse in the mouth. You know what they said after the first trial? You know what I mean? That kind of arrogance, basically taunting the prosecutor, and you know what I mean? That just, sometimes you just got to walk away. Sometimes you've just got to take your blessings and even though you may resent that something happened anyway, you've just got to keep your mouth shut and keep moving, particularly when it has ruled in your favor. I think in this case, I think that also, that taunting actually also not only played very badly and poorly with the DA, but also with the public. Also with the public. Even though he may have felt that it was a high-stakes lynching, which I think in some ways it was. I think that at this point in time, Bill Cosby cannot get away with this. I think there were some jurors who felt that way, including the young African-American man who was on the jury. I wasn't there, didn't hear all the evidence. I had, in fact, saw the evidence earlier in the first, during the first trial, and I just didn't see where it made sense. And let me just say this. To Bill Cosby's credit, he never once denied. You got to understand, it was as a result of his admission under oath that, we did Molly's. And look, that's a dumb thing. I mean, I'm just going to tell you. Maybe it was arrogance. Preludes, yeah. And it was, and at that time when he was talking about this, in that case, it was kind of commonplace, bro. I'm just going to tell you this. I mean, I'm just telling you, it's commonplace as ecstasy right now, folks. And look, I'm not at all condoning the drug, but it's out there. And they're mind-altering, relaxing drugs, the opiates, all of that, meth. And what you have in some cases, or had in some cases, were men and women, especially women who would voluntarily just simply want to get high.
Drugs.
Now, folks, that doesn't mean that it says that they want to indulge in sexual relations. That's not at all. I think the people who would do that, including Bill Cosby, are just brutes. And they really would be frowned upon by other men like myself. Like, man, what? Who would want someone? I mean, really? I mean, you just want someone to lay there like a piece of slab of meat, really? Besides that, you're taking advantage of someone. Who would do that? In other words, there used to be a time that we as men would frown upon that, which is why probably Bill Cosby would go to the Playboy Ranch to do that, because a lot of slugs like himself at that time, arrogant individuals who felt that people were just a slab of meat, just people were, actually they were. Folks, look, there was such a thing as groupies, and it was, and sadly, they would put themselves out as for whatever, just for the sake of fame or just for the sake of being there, just being a part of the party. However, I think in this case, this was a get you no matter what, and then they got it. I've seen the same thing with men who were powerful and maybe not as powerful as him. I think the same thing was true of the I Gotta Get You movement against Dr. Gilbert R. Mason and Dr. Felix Dunn and others. And in this case, it wasn't what they did as in prostitution or fraternization. It was a tax evasion. It was, let me just see. We'll go in. We'll find anything we can. And so, but I think that he also is to blame. Now, I'm not at all exonerating him, but I'm just simply saying he's not guilty. In my mind, where this went, based on the evidence I saw in this case, this one case involving that victim, It's not enough to say it's guilt beyond a shadow of a doubt, particularly because she knew. She knew she was ingesting something to help her relax. And she knew that this man that she was with in his boudoir had a liking for her and had made a pass. And then not once, but twice. Something's wrong with that. There. And she grabbed the bunny and kept her mouth shut all this time. And so here we are. All right, you see it differently, do you?
Not really. There are a lot of, conspiracy theories out there about the modern day lynching, as Cosby has asserted. Felicia Rashad said something similar to that. But when he's not denying anything, it kind of breeds an idea that.
Oh, I'm cocked now. See, I tried to do that while you were doing this.
There might be some real guilt there.
Yeah, okay, I got it.
You got it?
I think I got it.
Okay.
Well, I think, look, I don't doubt. In other words, he's not saying he did not.
That's what I'm saying. Like, when you're not denying the thing, it's a problem.
What he is denying is that she was unaware.
Yeah.
What he's denying that he did not.
She didn't know.
Right, absolutely.
Right.
And look, folks, when you look back over the years, I'm going to tell you, it makes you wonder whether any woman, or man for that matter, could say, man, I remember it was way back, man. It must have been about I was 18, 19 years old. I woke up and this was happening.
I was thinking it as you said it. It was flashing back as you described it.
So, no, with that said, would you go back and would you feel that you would file charges if, in fact, that person if that person became a movie star? Would you?
I'm not gonna be like, you remember when I was 19? And you
I was asleep.
I was asleep. Stop it.
Okay, I don't want to make light of it because obviously there were in fact women who found themselves in that situation.
Who didn't go back after they found themselves in that situation.
Right. And, of course, they've reached the statute of limitations here, folks. All right, okay, what else here? Do I have to talk about Kanye West? Really? Whitlock?
Yesterday was a hell of a day, man.
Why?
Why was yesterday a hell of a day? Oh, between Cosby and the president running off at the mouth.
Folks, this whole Kanye thing is, to me, let me just tell you, let me make this very clear. and only I could do this. I guarantee you. And only a person like yours truly, who's been around long enough to know how Eisenhower got elected and how Richard Nixon got elected. And even more recently, how Thad Cochran was re-elected. Let me tell you how. African Americans voted Republican. You guys who listen to oxyconservative talk radio you guys got to see through the charade. You see, oxyconservative talk radio, the Limbubbas, the Russian Limbubbas, these guys work when they have a clearly defined opposite. It is always about them, the straw man, the liberal, the Democrat, the da. And not like us. We're beyond reproach. We're the ones who want what's best for America. And there can never, ever be a moderate. You got me? The one great thing, let me tell you, the one thing that Democrats or any other independents are missing is that. You see, oxyconservative talk radio have to paint the picture of their opponent every day. Well, the liberal is this, and Obama thinks this, and all of this is a narrative that they've painted. It's not true. It's my point. Well, all black folks just vote Democrat. No, we don't. Eisenhower would not have been elected. Richard Nixon would not have been elected. Fofo Gillich would not have been elected in Biloxi, Mississippi. That's just wrong. Not true. By the way, all Republicans don't vote Republicans. All white people don't vote Republican. If that were the case, then we wouldn't have the Attorney General we have. Jim Hood would not be the sole Democrat in the state of Mississippi. You guys can't buy their diatribe. Kanye has. So has what is it? What is the other rapper that supports him here?
Oh, Chance.
Chance the rapper.
Come out.
This is why I say it's ignorance. Chance, you guys need to take the time to stop listening and start reading and investigating for yourself. Benjamin Hooks, one of the presidents for the NAACP, early 1960s, voted Republican and was very proud of it. You tell you why? Because the Democratic Party was full of conservatives. Conservatives, ladies and gentlemen, are those individuals who want to maintain Jim Crow. Now, you can sit there and say, oh, the demos are demos. And at that time, they were all conservative. I'm talking about Jesse Helms, Eastland Stennis, Strom Thurmond. When they got out of the Democratic Party was when Johnson, the Democrat, signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Of course, Strom Thurmond got out before then. It was a segregationist concept, this thing called conservatism, and it still is. I dare anyone to call me and question me on it. Conway called me. What is this other little woman he's talking about? Candace Owens. Or for that matter, Condoleezza Rice. This is no Republican Democrat bull crap. That's just a party. Let me tell you, there is two parties in this country, particularly in the South. There's a white party, there's a black party. It is how the Negroes vote and how the white folks vote. End quotes. It's been like that in Mississippi for a long time. Fannie Lou Hamer voted Democrat because, ladies and gentlemen, there was no Republican Party in the state of Mississippi in the 1960s. It was non-existent. I'm just telling you. If you voted Republican, it was throwing away a vote because there was no Republican Party. All the conservatives dominated. The segregationists were the conservatives, and they were all Democrats. It had nothing to do with the D or the donkey. Well, sort of. They're all jackasses. It had more to do with that was the good old boy system. And Fannie Lou Hamer understood that, look, there's no sense in we don't have enough. You don't have any kind of framework for the Republican Party, and they can't even put together a primary, you know. And so what we're going to do is once they got the chance to vote, they realized that if they voted for the least segregationist, then they could win. And that's what happened. They voted in the primary, and that's how. And ultimately, that's how William Winter got elected. That's how Bill Waller got elected. Paul B. Johnson was the start of it. I know the history. Challenge me on it. I really want you to. Oh, really? Challenge me on it. You got to get out of this Democrat-Republican bullcrap and start seeing where are the conservatives. Wherever they are, trust me, they don't want you to be. Because the whole platform of that is states' rights. And it is the right of the powerful to control the weak. Folks, look. And this goes way back, long before the United States, folks. I mean, I could take you back to some basilicas in Florence, Italy, where you had the conservatives, who at that time was all the Catholics. In other words, it's just a battle of control, controlling the peasants. So that's what you look for, Kanye. That's what you look for. Where are the conservatives? Oh, okay, we know what that means. That's why you say we represent big business. That's why you see Donald John and others going to roll back regulations. And what we're going to do is, you see, here's their concept. Trickle-down economics, which George Herbert Walker Bush called voodoo economics. And he's right. I do, however, feel that there's such a thing as being too, quote-unquote, liberal. We're not communistic. We're not socialistic. I think there's all things in moderation. I think industry can exist with the environment, for instance. I don't think you have to have one or the other. I think the whole concept here is not having unfettered capitalism. That's what I think it is. You can't be so hard up that you want a job that you let the guy go out and pollute your water. Well, at least I'm working. We can go get some water somewhere else. That's just dumb. And I want you to know there was a time that people thought that. Am I making this clear to anybody out here?
I get it.
So here's Kanye West. Let's go ahead and play Kanye West when George W. Bush was in, when he was talking about Bush there during Hurricane Katrina. When, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, he became the poster child and the target for every oxy conservative you can stick a pin in.
Yeah. He went on the extended rant about the conditions there, and then ultimately ended up with this bombshell.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Huh? Really?
Yeah.
Oh boy, did he, and then I'm sure George W. didn't like that, huh?
George W. did not like that one bit. He was, he responded himself.
And
didn't appreciate it then, and I don't appreciate it now. It's one thing to say, you know, I don't appreciate the way he's handled his business. It's another thing to say this man's a racist. I resent it. It's not true. And it was one of the most disgusting moments of my presidency.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you, boy, Kanye need to look around. If we start talking about the Hannity boy, I'm going to tell you the Hannity boy was all up in there.
Oh, yeah, let him have it. Let him have it.
Now, let me tell you where he is now.
The sunken place?
No. I think it's first and foremost ignorance and not know a thing about the plight of his ancestors to get here first. But I think more importantly, I think there are those, and I put Condoleezza Rice in this bag, and this other young lady, what's her name, Candace or whatever, and many of what I would call, what they call themselves, black conservatives. There's a thought that somehow if I just simply ignore and play ball, I'll be all right. I want you to know there are some people who are whipped into shape simply because they accept that their powers that be will destroy me if I don't acquiesce, if I don't give in. I'm afraid of what I'm about to lose. Really? Man, Rip, don't you go down and mess with those people, man. They're gonna shut you down, brother. I was told that 20-something years ago. There are those whose dignity is for sale. There are those who feel that it's a strategy. And some of you go along with, oh, yeah, there's a strategy so he can make some money. That's what it's all about. Ain't no shame in his game. Ain't nothing wrong with being a slave as long as you get a few pennies. That's what this is about. So you do what's in your best interest. The hell with everybody else. Boy, if Martin Luther King would have thought that. We'll be back.
It's lonely up here, at the top, the pinnacle, number one. At Ceasefire, we worked hard to get here, to give you the number one network and signal quality, the number one unlimited plan rated best value, and the number one customer service that's ranked most exceptional in the industry.